Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to SpeedGaming. My name is Tyler Salt. We'll be doing commentary for this spoiler log tournament race. In the first round, we've got oneup40 versus Senen. Like we said, my name is Tyler Salt. I'll be joined hopefully soon by Arusta. We've got Cool Papa Bell behind the scenes pushing buttons for us. Really looking forward to a nice race tonight. These two are excellent runners. They've had the past 15 minutes or so to look over the spoiler log for this open seed, figure out their route and where they're going to go to get all the items that they need to defeat Ganon in this seed. This is a 7-7 open seed. Nothing crazy going on there except for, like I said, that study period. So we'll be able to see where they are and where they go here in just a few minutes. Glad to have you with us and hope we're in for a good race here. And we're off, both runners starting out and getting the fire rod there in Link's house. Off to a nice start. Looks like there's something in the escape sequence as well. All right, our runners making their way into the secret passage and Uncle area. That's a bow there in the secret passage. Oneup picks just a piece of heart from the Uncle himself. Senen is going to grab that as well. We'll see where they head next. First order of business in a spoiler log race like this is probably going to be get a weapon, right, and find Dark World access. We're going to need a glove, maybe a hammer, a moon pearl for certain, maybe another glove. It's possible, that we could see Aga. We've seen that early on in the spoiler seed. We have some diversion right now here. We got Senen going back to Link's house and oneup starting from Sanctuary. And we're joined now by Arusta here in the booth. Thanks for joining us today.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Not much going on here quite yet. We got some bomb farming, we've got a bow, and we're figuring out where we're going. Got a fire rod and Link.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the spoiler log and lost track of time.
It is definitely possible. There's a lot of information in there, and it can be tricky to keep it all straight for sure. Senen is headed right over towards the Eastern Palace area before doing the Kakariko checks where oneup is. So that's an interesting point of a divergence here. We'll see what they end up picking up and which one of these ends up being the more efficient choice. There's a glove in Sahasrara's closet for Senen. That's all he wants out of there. He'll be saving and quitting.
Yeah, and it is worth noting with that bow and fire rod could clear pretty much all of Eastern Palace if they wanted to. So presumably, since it's a pendant, already has checked the spoiler log and decided there's nothing else even in that area.
Looks like oneup is headed over there to get his glove, while Senen, using that glove that he picked up in Saha's closet, to head into the back of the... If you're not super familiar with this format, like I said, you've got 15 minutes before the race starts to look over the spoiler log, which you can keep in front of you for the duration of the race. You can also watch the stream. You can watch your opponent's stream. You can be in chat if you want. You can chat in chat if you want. All of that's fine. This ends up being very execution heavy, this mode. You've got all the knowledge, right? That you've got the time to plan. The question is, how quickly can you go while still being as fast, or or how aggressive can you be while still being as fast as you can and safe, I guess.
Absolutely, and that is one of the things about this mode as well, since you do know that it tends to be a shorter mode, since you know where everything is. You tend to have to worry about a lot more lower execution situations because you just don't have time to go and route all the safeties you might normally run across.
We saw both of our runners picking up blue mail relatively early on. I imagine that's going to be the only one of those mail upgrades that they pick up, unless the game just throws red mail at them. We'll see. But green mail to blue mail, a huge upgrade here. So we'll see what is next on the agenda. Looks like both of our runners have had to take multiple trips into Kakariko Village just because of the way things worked out.
Yeah, and it looks like One Up is heading to Sick Kid, so we'll see what that bottle pays off for him here.
It's funny, I was just looking up, I wonder where the flute is. There it is. So that's important. We're going to need that to get up Death Mountain. Looks like Misery Mire is a green pendant here today. No word on whether we're going to have to get into there. But flute's nice this early.
Yeah, and that's about the most convenient spot you could find. It.
One Up using that flute right away to head over here and check out Agina's cave. I imagine we'll find something important in there as well.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, without book or the Mitts plus mirror, there is nothing else One Up can do here, so the Agina's cave item has to be pretty important if making a separate trip just for that.
Looks like Senen had used the flute and decided to come over here, dodge the duck, and get 10 bombs first. Had just 3. One Up uses his final bomb to get the magic mirror there, an important thing that they're certainly going to need. With that there, I would imagine that with the flute and the mirror that we might be headed towards Death Mountain here. It seems like that makes sense to me. And look at that.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, One Up did not pick up the old man. Probably means it's garbage, but it is worth noting that if you don't return him, you never actually get that save and quit point, so it's always one of those things in a spoiler log race like this. You have to think through, how many times am I visiting the mountain? Is it going to be worth the time it takes to pick him up, or is it not?
Oh, and there are some gloves up on Spectacle Rock. The Titan's Mitts. Looks like that is our Dark World access. And the reason why we did all that rigmarole to get a bottle, to get the flute, to get the mirror. Here we go. Dark World access. We got some Titan's Mitts. Oh, the rarely seen flute from on top of Spectacle Rock. I like it.
Yeah, and running straight to Mire.
Clearly something in the shed. Because Checkerboard Cave as well, possibility, but One Up headed right into the Mire shed. Ah, it's a sword. I'm gonna need that.
Yeah, and that's certainly one thing that's nice to get early, because it makes, if you have to do dark rooms, makes it easier to do those, and just your general gameplay being able to actually kill stuff.
Looks like there's nothing that we need in Desert right away. We're going back to Kakariko Village here. Looks like we're headed into the Village of Outcasts on One Up side. Senen is headed into Tower of Hera, which OneUp decided to put off until later.
And the big key available early in Hera, that's always a good thing. Especially since neither runner has hookshot right now, so there is no option to Hera pot all the way through.
Now this is interesting. I wonder... Senen does not have a weapon that can hurt Moldorm. So I'm not quite sure exactly what he's doing with this. And this is when I'll point out in these seeds that this 15 minutes is not a lot of time for figuring out exactly what you're supposed to do here. And it's a lot of information to process and not a whole lot of time. So it's possible that that is something that Senen has overlooked.
Yeah, Senen also does not have a very simple way to kill those beetles.
Yeah, those bombs are only going to stun them. So...
showing off good game knowledge there that when you actually throw them down the holes, if you come back, they don't come back and respawn, so jump right back down the hole again.
So OneUp got a hammer there. I believe that was in Village of Outcasts somewhere. Taking a moment to figure out where he's going next. Is going to mirror. Looks like he was thinking about a hype cave check, but needs some bombs first. I see what Senen is doing here. All right, so Senen got the big key, opens the big chest for a small key. So there must be something in the basement that he wants.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that in terms of routing here, whenever OneUp ends up coming back for this item in the basement, we'll have a sword, so we'll be able to do this a bit faster than Senen's unfortunate getting stuck with the bomb strats and falling down the hole.
Uh-oh. And Senen just missed the coffee break strat. It is on one heart. So this is there's a slippery situation here for Senen for sure. Oh, and there it is. Takes a death from the tile. That's going to be something that you see here in a lot of these spoiler races. Be prepared to see more deaths than you would normally think that you would in a race between players of this caliber. He's trying again, though.
Yeah, meanwhile, OneUp picked up that big key in the front and is just running straight to the back here.
The game just absolutely throws bombs at you in underpots in Thieves Town because it knows that you're going to need to blow up that attic floor. And so it just gives you all sorts of bombs in pots. It's very convenient.
Yeah, meanwhile, Senen getting the coughing break this time. Much nicer when you can just sit there and not have to dodge.
Senen, fortunately knowing that there is some magic in there, picks up the Cane of Samaria there in Hera. Now, it's interesting. It'd be something that I'm definitely, I'm not sure if we'll get Senen for an interview after this, but it's something that I'm definitely going to want to ask him about because the Cane of Samaria is obviously a great weapon to have, but the question is, is that really the best time to get it, considering that he's going to have to go back up and dip Hera again, like you mentioned. So it'd be interesting to see why he thought that he needed that this early.
Yeah, especially since it's also worth noting, since Meyer is a pendant, but Turtle Rock is a crystal, if the only thing it really unlocks is those two dungeons. So it's possible that, and we'll see if OneUp does this, it's possible that maybe you could route that in later, just right before your Turtle Rock dip.
Now, of course, you might want the Canis Maria if you need to go into Swamp Palace, which is a pendant, or for when you clear Ice Palace, which is definitely a crystal. Canis Maria makes that a lot easier. So want to pick up the lamp there in Blind's cell. For someone who is so afraid of the light, you'd think that keeping a lamp in a chest in your cell would not be a good idea.
Well, I mean, that's about the safest spot for it, because you know that
I guess that's
it's
true.
going to take it until they come all the way back to you. So Senen is going to the Dark World, probably going to do some of the same checks we just saw from oneup here.
Very nice blind fight for oneup. Gets crystal number 1, just short of 15 minutes in. We saw Senen pick up a Master Sword there in Skull Woods. A nice find. He's going to take care of Skull Woods before headed down and getting the rest of the Village of Outcasts. Very aggressive play. Master Sword, Fire Rod, 5 hearts, Blue Mail for Mothula. Blue Mail's help.
Yeah, it looks like we might see some simultaneous moth fights here.
Yeah, they've got similar equipment. OneUp's got 1 extra heart and the hammer. That's going to be a really nice weapon for him. Hammer does tempered sword damage.
It does tempered sword damage, but it is worth noting it can be kind of tricky to use, especially on Moth where the floor moves underneath you.
That is definitely true. The best way to approach a Hammer Mothula fight, in my experience, is to come at him from the top and to the side. So you're going to want to be kind of above him so that you avoid his little like onion ring shots. And then from the side, because it's a lot easier to hit things with the hammer from the side than it is up or down. So we'll see whether OneUp uses that method. Still difficult, of course, with the conveyor room floor for sure.
Yeah, it is worth noting that both runners do have a decent amount of magic, so they'll be able to get off at least a few fire rod shots to help themselves out.
Yeah, Senen, we see Senen conserving magic by taking the time to kill that Gibdo with the Master Sword rather than the Fire Rod. OneUp using some spins and Fire Rod combination. Very well done. We get the flippers from Mothula.
Yeah, and it is worth noting if both runners end up going to Ice Palace sometime soon, this could be a nice advantage for Senen having that red cane, because Icebreaker versus the bomb jump is a solid minute plus, sometimes 2 minutes, depending on your execution.
Yeah, if you're full clearing the dungeon, it's not a huge, it's not as much of a time difference for sure. But if you are gonna skip anything, or if you're just go moding it, the cane makes a huge difference.
Meanwhile, OneUp going back to show us what was in Hype Cave that wasn't able to get the first time due to lack of bombs.
some bombs. And the Book of Medora, and that's it. So he's headed out as Senen picks up his hammer.
Yeah, and I must say it's a subtle thing, but I like the decision there to talk to the guy to get the bomb refill. Even though 1UP didn't really need it, since you have to wait for that bomb to explode anyways, it really doesn't cost any time.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. 1UP headed now back up the mountain as Senen is headed into Thieves Town. Now with this book and the Master Sword, 1UP is going to be able to take care of the Ether Tablet, going to be able to full clear Tower of Hera, get that cane of Samaria, and with a hammer, going to be able to go over to the right-hand side of a Death Mountain. So has saved himself a climb compared to Senen for sure.
Yeah, and let's see, pulled out the book there. Not sure if that was just a quick miss menu or if was actually planning on checking Ether Tablet.
He was planning on checking Ether Tablet because those are the boots. Those are nice to have for sure.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that's pretty nice advantage there for 1UP. Not only the fact that they're going to be able to do this Hera climb faster than Senen was able to, having the sword, but also the longer you have boots ahead of your opponent, that time just adds up over and over. Oh, Senen gonna have to be careful here. Living danger.
Oh, and that's too bad. Thieves Town can definitely be difficult in low percent situations. So it's a tough death for Senen.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate place to die because you have to walk all the way back, basically. And that is definitely one of the things about this mode is it definitely tests your execution and puts you into some rough situations just because you will not go out of your way to pick up, pieces of heart or things like that that you'd normally get plenty of just as you're trying to find items.
There goes Moldorm. Crystal number 3 for 1UP. 22 minutes in. That's a good question in chat. The two racers started at the same time. So since this is a spoiler race, they had 15 minutes of study time before the race started. And so 1UP had it kind of running and starting from negative 15 minutes, and Senen just started his from 0. And so when Senen started his race, it was at 15 minutes, and 1UP was at 0. But they have been racing at exactly the same time.
Yeah, just while 1UP's doing a coffee break and Senen is running through a couple rooms here. Just a brief explanation for anybody who joined us late. This is a spoiler log tournament, which basically means before the match started, they had 15 minutes with a log describing, has all the locations of items, all the crystals, pendants, everything you need to know basically about the seed. So you have to figure out your route during that 15 minutes, and then you go ahead and execute it. This is part of the ongoing spoiler log tournament. If you're not part of it, definitely go to the Discord and join us up.
Yeah, this is the first round. We just started this week. There's 64 participants, and the first round is a 7-week Swiss. And so each week, everybody will be paired up randomly with somebody who has the same record that they do going forward. And we're bringing us down to a just 8-player elimination bracket at the end of that 7-week period. So that should be very hype here. Lots of races for everybody, but only a few folks there at the end. His one-up uses those boots, picks up the tempered sword from the library. It's a nice find.
Yeah, it's a nice find, and it's definitely one of those things, even though you can beat the game on Master Sword with the amount of gameplay you have left to do, especially even just here in Meyer and then Turtle Rock, you will make that time up.
Yeah, Senen falling off script a little bit, but able to handle it. Takes down Blind. That's crystal number 3 for Senen. Or number 2, excuse me.
Yeah, Senen does still have to go up to Tower of Hera and clear it. Have to assume he's probably going to do that fairly soon once he gets his book, because those boots are a huge advantage.
Now that's a nice, presumably safety item, the powder there. If it had been required that there was something on Magic Bat, I imagine we would have seen one-up pick that up. And since he didn't, I imagine that Senen just wants it for safety, which powder is probably the best safety item in the game. So I can't say if I blame him. It's right there at the brewery. You're not losing a ton of time there.
Yeah, meanwhile, from the big chest of Desert Palace, one-up picking up Quake, which is the required medallion for Turtle Rock.
And probably the only medallion that we will see so far, considering both runners have a fire rod. It was in Link's house. And so won't need Bombos to get into or to clear Ice Palace. So if you like medallions, enjoy that Quake medallion. It's going to be the only. Senen also picking up the OK Boomerang and the single arrow there in Hype Cave, along with that. And looks like Senen is headed down towards, we'll see if this is a mini Moldorm cave play, looks like, or if he is headed over towards Ice Palace. As one-up clears Lanmola very quickly, getting crystal number. One-up making a beeline to Palace of Darkness for crystal number 5 and anything that we might find in there. Now, just thinking about what we need, we're going to need the Ice Rod somewhere, and we're going to need, one-up's going to need the Cane of Samaria. That's pretty much it. Oh, and the hook shot would be nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if one-up knows how to hover or not, or Moldorm bounce. If not, you will need that hook shot.
Unfortunately, one-up realizing mid-entrance that he does not have sufficient rupees to pay Kiki to get into Palace of Darkness. Now, one-up has the cane now. Excuse me. I forgot about that. He did go up there. Senen did pick up the red mail somewhere. It must have been in Mini
Yeah,
Moldorm.
Mini Moldorm Cave, which had 40 rupees and then 2 full heart containers and red mail. So nice safety cave.
Oh man, you don't see the arrow game outside of inverted very often. But One Up needs some rupees real quick. This is probably the quickest way to do it without searching the spoiler log. And even then, that there might not be a convenient 300 rupee drop anywhere near him. So good game knowledge for One Up. Knows that that setup to nail the arrow game every time. And it's a good way to pick up the money that he needs to get into House of Darkness.
Meanwhile, a very fast and nice icebreaker there for the hook shot for Senen.
And Senen just needs that Quake Medallion and I guess the Quake Medallion and the boot.
It is worth noting that Senen stopped and picked up Ether Medallion here in Ice Palace. We'll see what that's for, or whether that was just an chest mess up, because it is worth noting that a lot of chests are hard to, if you're not familiar with the chest name, especially the map and compass chest, trip everybody up. Putting that powder to good use there as well. Very smart play here.
Yeah, looking to farm up some magic here. Of course, you need a full magic bar in order to thaw Cold Stare with the fire rod.
Meanwhile, One Up going pretty quickly through Pod here. Going to make his way to Helma.
Looks like Senen is looking to conserve some of that magic by using sword beams. If you get the timing right, then Senen seems to have saved 2 shots there. If you get the timing right with sword beams and you kind of hit Cold Stare with the sword beams just after you hit it with the fire rod, the game thinks that the sword beam is a fire rod shot, and it's a good way to save some magic. Senen taking down 2 puffs there with a spin at the same time. Very nicely done.
Very solid Cold Stare fight there by Senen.
Cold Stare. Now, we were just talking about how sword beams were really convenient in the Cold Stare fight. Now you're seeing a room where they are significantly less than convenient on One Up side. Sword beams can be a giant pain in the tuchus in that turtle room for sure.
One-Up making very short work of Helmosaur there.
That is not an easy boss fight on 6 hearts. So very well done from One-Up, coming off an appearance in the League Finals. The Randomizer League Finals as a member of Team Kappa, the second place team. So, very well done.
Yeah, it looks like One-Up is heading to Ice Palace, so at this point, the only thing up for grabs that One-Up is going to need, because he'll pick up his hook shot here, is that Ice Rod.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to find out where that is. Oh no, One-Up did the same thing, where he missed Flute as you're heading into the dungeon to kind of mess up that altitude area ball and make it harder to hit that Freezer with the Fire Rod. Senen picks up his boots now on this trip up Death Mountain. Really, this trip was just for the boots, so a loss of efficiency there, at least compared to One-Up. Yeah, the fact that we haven't seen the Ice Rod yet, it probably means that we're going to be looking for it either in Turtle Rock or somewhere up on Dark Death Mountain. That's the area of the world that neither runner has shown us at all. So, there wasn't anything even over on Light Death Mountain on the east side. So. One-Up smartly noting the key layout in Ice Palace, and that the big key was on his way, and so that he didn't need to go back and flip the crystal switch before doing Icebreaker. So that was well done. One-Up not concerned with having a full magic bar, does have that green potion. We'll see if he can get those that sword beam glitch going on as well, so he can conserve that potion. No, he's just gonna blow it here.
Yeah, didn't have sword beam, so just went in there and decided blowing the potion is faster than trying to go get a key and get into that room.
Ooh, almost got hairy there for a second. That's crystal number 6 for One-Up.
Yeah, so at this point, like you mentioned, all we're looking for is Ice Rod, and at this point it's got to be somewhere on Dark Death Mountain, because definitely would have routed in at some point.
Yeah, just to speak to the discussion that's going on in chat, it all goes down to your comfort level and your approach to that 15-minute, right? If you want to take the time to pick out exactly the right chests to open. That's one approach. A lot of runners also just say, all right, I need to go to Mini Moldor Cave right now. During this 15 minutes, I'm not going to worry too much about which of the 5 things that I'm just going to get. I'm not going to waste much. It's not going to waste much time. I'll just go in there. I'll open everything. So that works out just fine as well, and lets you perhaps do a little bit of adjustment on during that 15-minute period and let you spend more time on things like keys and safeties. So one up picking up that ice rod there in Super Bunny Cave. So that's go mode there in 39 minutes 20 seconds.
Yeah, along with a pre-bottled fairy, which makes a lot of sense to grab since you're right here. It's basically the only safety that one up is going to have. Yeah, and with the discussion you're having about the number of chests, it is worth noting that you are allowed to have the spoiler log up as you're playing. So what some runners will do is sort of a hybrid of those strategies where you'll say, I need to go to Paradox Cave, or especially something like Paradox or Mini Moldorm where it's kind of off by itself. And then if your overworld execution is good enough, you can sort of do it by memory. As you're doing that, you sort of look at the spoiler log to say, okay, which chest in particular am I going to open here?
One up taking a hit from that blueberry there and getting knocked off the platform. Now, not sure whether either of our runners are doing this, but this is in a spoiler race. You are, unlike any other race mode, you are allowed to watch the stream. So One Up knows that he's got a pretty significant lead at this point. So it'd be interesting to see whether he makes any extra checks here in Turtle Rock or Ganon's Tower to get a little bit more safety, knowing that he's got a pretty decent lead of about 2 crystals or so.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also worth noting, even if one up is not watching the stream, when you're at 42 minutes and on your 7th crystal, even a spoiler log race like this, you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and for people talking about that 15-minute period, try it yourself if you've never done it before. 15 minutes is not enough time to do everything. It's just not. And so some of the stuff that is in the log you're gonna miss. Some of it's stuff that you're gonna have to kind of figure out on the fly. You might make a mistake. You might misorder some things on your list. Even the most experienced runners, even with a lot of experience running spoiler log, will mess up some of those things. So if you've never done it, I highly encourage you to give it a shot. It is a lot of fun, and it is not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other big one that, I mean, even stuff like routing dungeons, like one up here knows exactly which chest needs to open. Well, in Turtle Rock, you need 3 keys. You need the big key. You might need 4 keys depending on where if the big key's in the lava chest. So that's a lot of routing. But the difference between doing Turtle Rock in the absolute fastest possible way versus the slowest is a huge time save.
The question of whether or not to watch your opponent's stream during a spoiler race is entirely a matter of personal preference, right? It can inform you know, if you're confident enough in your ability to pay attention to two things at once, it can inform if you're going to do kind of riskier, faster strats, or whether you can play it safe a little bit. If you see they have a decent lead, you might be safe. You might be safer. It can affect some decisions. Personally, if it's me, I probably wouldn't want to watch because I would get distracted and then mess up my execution for sure. But this mode is execution heavy. So if you're confident enough in your execution that you think you can do that, then it can give you that extra information to be a nice advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, the other option that I know a lot of people use, and this is what I do personally, is you don't necessarily watch it in terms of really watching it. You've got it up on maybe on your phone or like on a spare monitor or something, and you just glance over every now and then to see where am I at? Am I ahead or behind? You're not really watching it to check item locations or anything, just to get overall where you stand.
Like even having just a glance at your opponent's tracker is probably enough information, either on having the restream up or watching your opponent's actual stream, right? Just knowing what items they don't have yet, what crystals they've gotten, that sort of thing. It can be helpful, but it can also be very distracting. So knowing your capabilities and knowing your limits is a huge part of this mode anyway. And so that's just another example of that.
Yeah, and this is where we'd normally be doing the Ganon's Tower big key guessing game in a normal seed, but of course they already know where it is. So the real numbers here are between 1 and maybe 3, depending on the key layout.
I'd like to go with 1, Arusta. That's my guess.
I like to go with 2, just because if you end up having to use the key on the left side, you then need to get another key somewhere.
I cheated. I knew it was here on the torch.
And so as oneup begins his climb, just a quick update for anybody who joined us a little late. So my name is Arusta. My co-commentator today is Tyler Salt. We've got cool Papa Bell tracking and doing all the real hard work here. And then also thank you to everybody for watching here on the Speed Gaming Family Network. This tournament will be going on for many more weeks, and so you've got a lot of opportunities to watch some good spoiler log races like this. Meanwhile, Senen is going to Turtle Rock first, and then going to presumably just go over and mirror to Hera's very last dungeon.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like, in theory, I like the idea of saving Hera and then just mirroring over before you do Ganon's Tower. I think a big difference between a big part of the gap between oneup and Senen right now is that Senen made a couple extra trips up to Death Mountain because of the way that he routed Tower of Hera. Didn't really work out for him in this situation. But in theory, at least, I like the idea of just putting off Hera until the absolute last second.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, even though it looks like there's a huge difference here, Senen is probably still on track to finish somewhere around an hour, maybe just right above that, which is still fantastic for a spoiler log seed.
Absolutely great time for sure. Yeah. oneup just making short work of the gauntlet. They're very, very nice. Had a 0 cycle land Mola, making his way through the most satisfying rooms in the game right now. Oh man, so good. Senen getting bullied a little bit by the chain chomps, and oneup gonna use, or is that fairy? Almost gave me a heart attack there. Not often you see somebody taking a death in that conveyor belt room.
And choosing to start with the lamp here, which is very good and logical way to do it. Saves him having to pick up the extra pot just for the magic refill.
We'll take that full magic refill into the next room. However, it's a good way to kill some time so you don't despawn all the sprites in at the top of Ganon's tower. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true in general. And also, in this case, 1UP really need that magic to actually finish that torch room.
Yes, absolutely. So now that it's clear that both of our runners are not going to be finding them, I can tell you that the other bow, the silver arrows, were on the pedestal, so we were not going to get those. I missed that glitch there. I didn't see what Senen did. Potion camera unlocked there. One up now on his mandatory. What am I talking about? Mandatory geometry test. It's over. I don't have to worry about it.
And so 1UP going to just fight Ganon here. It is worth noting that 1UP does not have any safeties, so what you see is what you get. Those bottles are all empty.
All right, 6 hearts, tempered, silverless. Let's go.
And a fantastic one-cycle tempered sword fight there by 1UP.
Oh, yeah, very well done. Very tricky with tempered sword. That timing is tight. Has the lamp out. We'll try to get that torch glitch. With no safeties, getting that torch glitch on a tempered silverless flight is critical. No, we did not find the arrows in Light World. Whoa, and he just got it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a trolly location for Ganon to teleport there to if you're trying to get torch glitch.
Well, that was unfortunate. It was a missed fire rod shot. I think he shot it just a couple frames early. 12 spins here. If you nail the timing on the torch glitch, you can get 3 per cycle. And that's it. Get your GGs in chat for oneup40. We'll be taking this race. Senen taking down Moldorm. Looks like, though, he's deciding whether to move on here. Looks like he has decided to pass on.
Hello.
And we are joined by Senen on the restream here in the booth. So Senen, tough loss there for you. I'm not sure if you were following along, but how do you think that was going when you finished?
Well, I picked at the one up a couple times. I knew I was behind, but I knew it. Like, I didn't expect much for that match, and I didn't play really good. I think. Like, I had a couple moments that were really bad, so I knew I would lose. I didn't expect to lose by quite that much, but that happens.
We are also joined here by oneup. GG's oneup. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks, GG's.
GG.
So I noticed oneup, you mentioned in the SRL chat that this was a hard seed to route. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, and Senen, feel free to chime in. What made this so difficult to figure?
That's a good question. I guess just because there were so many little pieces you had to pick up in like totally different places, and trying to order everything in such a way that it was the fastest. Like, I don't know, there were just so many different things you had to pick up and so many orders you could have thought of, and like so many of them wouldn't work. Like, I know at one point I had that little moment where I decided last second, I'm going to skip Thieves Town until I get the boots and try to get the book out of Hype Cave and then go get my boots off the mountain. And then as I did that, I realized, wait, I need to get the second sword from Skull Woods before I can go up there and get those boots. So I kind of had to abort that in the middle, which was kind of silly on my part.
Yeah, I did Skullwood before Sifton, and before Sifton I considered going to get my boots. Maybe I should have. One thing I considered, but I think it was really too slow, but you could even do Tower of Hera on your first way to the mountain, because there was one sword you could get before your Dark World access. So you could, if you wanted to, get your sword on the ledge and do Tower of Hera in one trip.
Yeah, that's what oneup ended up doing, and I think it saved him some time compared to you, because you had to make you routed in the rest. You went in there and got the mitts and the Cane of Samaria out of Hera, but left Moldorm until right before Gambit.
Well, to be honest, I think I shouldn't have gotten the Samaria at that time, because Samaria wasn't useful. If you would the boots early in your Dark World, like my Dark World could have been Skullwood, then immediately get the book, the boots, and clear up Tower of Hera this time. And I think that's faster than getting the sword and the ledge, but I'm not sure. But the way that I did it was slow, because I'm not used to Tower of Hera without weapon. So just before going there, I thought, maybe I have to buy bombs. So I went back to buy bombs. Then once in there, I forgot the strats you have to do when you don't have the sword. So yeah, it was bad on my part. But yeah, I do think I'm not sure getting the sword before Hera was the play here. I just think you had to postpone Hera and just get your mitts on the mountain on the first trip.
Hera kind of ended up throwing me for a loop too, because with my original routing, I was just going to grab the cane out of the basement and then come back later with the hook shot and just Hera pot. But then, like, I walked to the back of Hera, and I'm like, I don't have a key. I don't know where the key is. So I just kind of checked all the chests as I went, because, I mean, pretty hard to look things up again in the spoiler log and play the game at the same time. So I'm like, whatever, these chests are fast enough. I'm just going to open them as I go.
Yeah, usually I route my dungeon when I'm going to there because I have my spoiler open. But I totally blanked on needing a key for the basement. That's one of the reasons I went there when I did. And yeah, it was bad. One day too, I have to learn the name of the chest in Thiefstone because every time I struggle to get the big key.
Knowing the names of all the chests, and in particular knowing where the map and the compass are in vanilla, is like such a small piece of information that generally in rando is completely irrelevant, but is critical in a spoiler race, because that's what they're called in the spoiler log. So I remember when I was preparing for the co-op spoiler week in the league, like I made a big list of what all of the chests were named in each of the dungeons, because that was I needed to, or else, like in our practice we ended up messing that up a bunch, and so it was a big problem.
The funny thing is that so I have multiple screens, so I have a lot of information on my screens, and I have the catalog with every chest, how they called, and the image of the chest. So, but the problem with Thiefstone is that the 4 chests at the start, really the images of those look really similar. So I just look at the file. I saw the compass chest. And we're like, okay, I see this is this chest, and I totally like the image for compass chest and ambush chest are so similar that I just I was wrong on which was which. That's why I went to the big door, and I thought I had the big key, like I was sure of it, and no, I didn't have it.
That happens for sure.
So yeah, for every dungeons, I'm pretty okay, but Thiefstone I have to work on because the images are too close to one another.
Yeah, no, that's not trivial. There, seeing which one of these is this chest here. Yeah, it would be more helpful in the log if it would just number them 1 through 4.
Yeah, I do that in my notes, but I do that for items only. I don't take notes about keys, so.
That makes sense.
Anyway, yes, it was an interesting scene.
Yeah, so GG's to oneup for taking the win here. He'll move to 1-0, Senen 0-1, and next week they'll be matched up against somebody with that same record here in the Swiss. A little bit about the matches coming up a little bit later tonight. There's more rando for you. On SpeedGaming 2 at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, so a little bit less than an hour. We've got Mercer versus Ack the Boker. That should be a heck of a race. Kern and Sinak on comms there. SpeedGaming 4 has Matt 7898 versus Revenant at 8:15 Eastern. SpeedGaming 5 has Ace Zero 187 versus Cadenza as well. SpeedGaming 5, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time for that. So plenty of spoiler action here over the next several weeks. So anything more? Anything else that you wanna get out there? One-up Senen about this seed before we let you go?
No, it was fun. Good luck for the rest of the tournament, One-up.
Yeah, you too. Excited that the spoiler tournament's back, and I'm looking forward to how it goes.
All right, GG to both of you. Remember to give these runners a follow there. Just put their handles in chat. You'll be able to watch some good stuff on their channels. Keep track of them over the course of the rest of the tournament. So, Arusta, good to work with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good to work with you. And then also as well, huge shout outs to Cool Papa Bell 2282 for doing all the really hard work behind the scenes of tracking and pushing buttons, keeping us in line.
Yep, and thanks to Kirito as well for the restream. So for Arusta, for One Up and Senen, for Cool Papa Bell, for all of us here at Speed Gaming, my name is Tyler Salt. Glad to have you with us here today, and check out more spoiler log tournament action on the Speed Gaming Family Networks all evening and for the next like month and a half, 2 months or so. It'll be great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.